All right, welcome back everyone to Power Up with Pride 2022. We are ready to go with our next run, COGEN Sort of Rewind with DemonchildElise. Whenever y'all are ready, feel free to take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm DemonchildElise. I'm gonna run COGEN, new game any percent. Tempest is gonna help me with commentating, so thanks for that.
Hey, no problem. And hello, my friends and fellow gamers. My name is Tempest Mask 1000. Some of you may know me as Steve, and I'm actually trying to run this game myself, so I'm very happy to brush up and help Elise on her run, so this will be fun. This is definitely a really cool game.
Alright, countdown begins on me pressing yes here, so we can start anytime. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, and with that, everybody, welcome to COGEN Sort of Rewind. So this game came out this year on January 27th and had a cross-release with Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger X, but COGEN Sort of Rewind was developed by Gemdrops Inc. in the Unity engine and was also done in collaboration with Unity Technologies, the people behind said engine. This also kind of plays into our main protagonist here, Kohaku Otori, but I'll get into that in just a bit. For now, Elise is going through this tutorial section that you will always have to experience on a new game run, because that is what the game puts you through. In fact, whenever you start up this game for the very first time, you'll do it automatically. Like, the game just throws you in. It's definitely a rare detail within games these days. But essentially, we're going through the basics here, and then that little prompt right there was something that originally wasn't within the game, but came in within an update. We want to not lower the difficulty, basically, and so what we got going on here is Stage 1. This game is comprised of 10 levels, but it will go through 2 cycles. So you're going to see Stage 1 to Stage 5, and then we'll see Stage 1 to Stage 1 SP to Stage 5 SP. Now, the general gist of this game is that the combat is basically kind of inspired, I would imagine, by the Mega Man X games, at least with Zero's playstyle, and that it's kind of like X5 to X8. A little more on that in a bit, though, because we got to talk about the main mechanic known as rewinding. You'll notice that in the upper left corner, there are these 3 bars, as well as a clock right under it. That is the energy gauge for the Ouroboros system. Now, Kohaku is a bit of a glass cannon, so anything that touches her will kill her, but the game will then automatically go into what's called rewinding, so that you can rewind up to a full second, and then that will expend a bar. But the moment you get back into the action, the bar will fully expend anyway, so anytime you see Kohaku die, you'll see that death counter going. Sometimes having those intentional deaths can be a thing, but the general gist is that you can also rewind manually as well. So what that'll do for us, it can replenish certain actions that Elise will be using, but right now for ground movement, the idea that you're seeing her do is Kohaku is much faster when dodge rolling or evading. It's funny though, because in order to dodge roll, Kohaku has to be facing the opposite direction in order to go forward, because otherwise it just has her go back. But right now, it also makes her completely invulnerable when the roll is active too, so essentially the game sort of takes that into account, if you will. We are currently moving to the first boss, however. This is a security drone that is being summoned to try and take care of us. Now, the basic combat, Kohaku is wielding a sword by the name of Exabreaker, and she has the general basics of what Zero would with a Z-Saber. You have a triple basic combo slash, you have a dash slash, she can duck, so you can also strike while ducking, and then she's got an aerial combat too. The third hit of the basic combo and the second hit of the aerial combo are generally some of the strongest stuff, so you'll see Elise try to use that to her advantage, but also manually rewind to sort of get that thing going. Kohaku can also double jump. There's a normal dash mechanic, which you'll see the after images whenever that gets used. She can air dash too, but the thing is, with the double jump and the air dash, you can use either of those only once per jump. So you have to then land on the ground to be able to do it again, but rewinding will bring that back, so that might be one of the cases as to why you're going to see rewinding happen. So whenever you see that screen flash or you hear that general sound effect, that means it's probably a manual rewind and it was intentional. Rewinding will also give you a moments of invincibility, so sometimes you'll see us do that for a bit of a not damage boost as well. But yeah, that was a really good fight. So as you saw right there, Elise had to knock 3 bombs into the robot in order to open up the weak point. That can definitely seem like a bit of a slog at first, but once you get the idea of how it all plays out, then the whole idea is just like health management. And I believe there's a reason why you intentionally have it go to half health at first and then let it recover, right?
Yeah, if you put the boss into red health, it's gonna enter phase 2, it's gonna lose some time, so I'm not gonna do max damage on the first cycle of the fight to not get it into phase 2.
Admittedly, the boss also starts to shoot missiles at you in phase 2, so that definitely makes the field a little more dangerous to go through altogether, so yeah, there's definitely a good reason for that sort of thing all in all. But now we're moving on to stage 2. Now, one thing you noticed within stage 1 is that there was these distortion-looking things. Those little rifts can automatically give you back your Ouroboros energy, but in order to sometimes use what they're there are these... let me try that again. Some mechanics within the game will play along with the rewind mechanic. So you might have seen these little platforms that were currently down. I mean, sometimes we're going to definitely skip those, but other times you would expend some of your time in order to have those platforms go up. You'll definitely see some more of those later. There are also these vanishing blocks that whenever you go out of a rewind, they suddenly disappear. You know, kind of like Yoku blocks, except much different that way too. Those time warps, though, those time distortions will not only give you back time, but also when you are rewinding, time will not affect Kohaku. Everything else will rewind, but not herself. Now you'll notice that there are a lot of enemies here that we could try to get out of the way, but obviously with a Mega Man styled game or action styled game like this one, or even like say Gunvolt, the general idea is to not have to worry about that and just make use of fast movement as best as possible. Now you also notice this occasional active dialogue here. Now the story of this game is actually adapted from Unity Technologies' short film Unity-chan: The Phantom Knowledge. It's available on their YouTube channel, or at least the video is. And so COGEN Sword of Rewind adapts from what was essentially a short plot, because Kohaku here is actually a Vocaloid, and her alias is known as Unity-chan. She was essentially released with a update called Vocaloid for Unity, as well as coming out for Vocaloid for Cubase, apparently. So you might recall her from that if you are familiar with the idea, but otherwise, I wouldn't blame you if you might have just heard of her within this game, or even Gunvolt X2, because the thing about the cross-promotion is that both Copen is a playable character here, whereas Kohaku is a fightable boss in that game. So, yeah, I definitely thought that was a really nice touch. But yeah, we're moving on to the second boss here, and this cube likes to squish you, so we don't want that. It'll also try to summon some of those presses we saw within stage 2. A good quick kill essentially sees us trying to beat this thing before it summons presses to bring us down to the lower half of the stage, which is generally like Grenade Man from Mega Man 8. If you know how, at half health, he breaks the stage and then pushes you down. So there's that, and yeah, we didn't see it here, so nicely done.
Yeah, I got a pretty good pattern there on the boss. There's a lot of animation cancelling, which, if you master animation cancelling, it looks a lot easier than it is, but it gives you a lot more damage. So, you'll see me cancel, especially on the third hit, a lot. It's gonna be a major part in almost every boss fight, to be honest.
Some of these bosses do utilize RNG, others might be pattern-based. I know I have some notes from Elise on what's what, but if I get something wrong, then you're definitely more than welcome to correct me on that one. Again, I'm still fairly new to this, but yeah, this game is just pretty dang cool. And if you're actually interested in trying this, it is pretty accessible, as it is available for Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, and of course the PC version, which Elise is currently using. I should also mention that we do have a few other categories with this game as well. This game in the run itself is still fairly, recent. In fact, Elise is, if I'm not mistaken, the progenitor of this entire run. But we also have another runner by the name of Benja. You might know the guy. I most certainly do, from a certain Azure Striker series myself. So shout out to good guy Benja. But yeah, this game does have a few categories. So like I said, new game any percent, where we definitely saw the tutorial, but there's new game plus where you can the game gives you the option to re-enter stages at any point, and so we just use a file with the stages already available and accessible to us. There's another difference we'll also get into as well for the second cycle when we get into the SP stages. Other than that though, there's that, and there's first cycle only, where you only have to clear the first 5 normal versions of stages. So yeah, this run definitely has some options if you're willing to give it a shot, and we definitely would be more than welcome to have some newcomers along for the ride for sure. There's also a few DLC packs that give you extra stages. Not that that accounts into any of the categories yet, but for each character there's like a brand new set of few stages for each, and they're also playable in the normal stages. So if you do want to play as Copen from X2, that is actually its own category as well. And we also have a couple of characters that hail from, well, this game in itself. Now, as we're coming up the third section, we have a bit of a traditional magma climb, if you will. And it's definitely not the last time we'll be seeing that. You might have noticed these terminals or these shining spots as well. It's not necessary. Those terminals and those little spots are like bonus conversations that you can get for extra lore and all that good jazz. I know I was definitely doing that the first time myself, because that's just who I am. But we're moving into the third boss now, or we already have started technically, and what you're seeing here is this guy is in a pool of magma, and that is not fun because that stuff will kill us. I mean, technically Kohaku is a bit of a glass cannon on her own, but the idea is once the magma rises and then falls, the boss's core will suddenly come out, so we need to make it vulnerable, and what we want to do is put it within a good spot, because, I mean, sometimes the boss will move if you're not fast enough, but that right there is good too. It looks as though Kohaku could fall within the slightest of movement right there, but nah, Elise is making it look super swag, if you ask me. But yeah, as we're moving on to the second phase, well, not yet, but the second phase of this boss is a bit interesting in that it's sort of like a new Super Mario Bros. 2 styled final Bowser phase, where the magma will start to climb, and then you'll have to go through the vertical section. But we're gonna try and skip that, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we were to potentially miss out on that opportunity, then yeah, that's what would happen, and obviously that would waste quite a bit of time, because unfortunately the boss still goes by the logic that we'd have to expose the core, basically. But let's see if we got it. There we go. Nice. Definitely better than auto scroller any day of the week.
Yeah, if you miss this 2-cycle kill, it loses like up to 1.5 minutes, so it's really key to get this.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is definitely a lot of management involved when it comes to COGEN as a run. It's all about manipulating your intentional rewinds, but also having the energy to do things, and then all of these cycles and the health management too. There's just quite a bit that goes into a game like this one, more than you might think. COGEN is also just kind of meant to be hard though, because with the whole rewinding mechanic and the whole damage stuff, yeah, you would probably think, seems a bit daunting, but I assure you that it's not all that bad. Thing that I haven't mentioned yet though is there is a point where we want to be careful, because whenever you see the bar enter under 0.50 seconds of time, and the game starts to have the outer edges flash red, kind of like a danger zone warning thing, then the next time Kohaku gets hit will send us back to the nearest checkpoint. So that is something you do want to be careful with. It's not like the game won't send you back at any point, and it's not like those checkpoints mean nothing per se, but yeah. Well, that especially also gets a little bit harder when we get to the SP stages. Again, to be explained when I get to that. You'll notice though some of these enemies have a bit of naughty behavior, like those helicopter fella drones, that if we get in their line of sight, they will cause the shooty flying enemies. And you also just saw Kohaku get pelleted by that little burst explosion from that enemy that explodes. There are a lot of self-destructing enemies in this, and they're never fun. But now we are, I should probably mention that the gimmick of stage 4 here is we have darkness, so hitting these fuse switches will allow us to temporarily turn on the lights, but a little bit of memorization is usually kept into mind so that movement is pretty optimal and all that good jazz. I can definitely say that this reminds me of running Gunvolt 1 and how there's the boss, or rather the level, the Stratacombs, that, well, aptly enough, the boss itself is named Elise, so there you go. But, yeah, otherwise, we are moving into the boss itself. This stage is very short when you know what you're doing. Like, I remember the first time playing this, I did not have to activate any checkpoints whatsoever, or rather go back to any checkpoints whatsoever, and I was like, whoa, that was quick. But now we got this guy, and the funny thing is, I don't really know these bosses' names. I would assume that it's mentioned by the art book, which I do officially own, but that's in Japanese, so I can't help you there. What I can help you with is that it does like to use all these electricity attacks, and when it does summon some of these yellow orbs, we can ricochet back to do some extra damage. Other than that, though, it has all of these different orbs, so if you want to get your orbs in the chat, you know you like to see it. But those vanishing blocks right there are one of the obstacles that I mentioned before that can be affected by the Ouroboros system. You just saw Kohaku get hit right there, and the moment you got out of Rewind is when they turned off, so to speak. So again, just one of those things to keep in mind, because even when you're not manipulating them inside a dimensional rift, they will still activate, and that's also when you take a death too. That was that was very close.
I choked it very hard.
That was still
my gameplay is
recovery.
I mean, I was kind of lucky that the boss gave a relatively good pattern, but my gameplay is really messy right now.
I still gotta say you're doing a very good job, and you're definitely making it look as smooth as can possibly be, for sure. Like I said, this game can definitely take a little bit, but once you know how it works, then it can go smooth as butter, for sure. Of course, that's not to say it doesn't like to fight back. That is definitely the case, not unlike most games that I know I've played. But yeah, now we're moving into stage 5, and this will be the last level of the first cycle, and then from there on we'll be going into the second one, and that's where things will get a little bit different. But for now, I think we are going to go through a bit of a retread with the magma section from level 3, so this would actually be a good time for any announcements or donations if we got any.
Absolutely. We only have one donation at the moment to read, a $100 donation with no comment from Wooly Whatsit.
Wow.
But it is a great time to mention that $100 did go towards that Mighty Gunvolt Burst hard mode incentive, which we are now only $110 away from reaching. So if you want to see that hard mode run, make sure you get those donations in. If you want to check out any other incentives, remember to use the exclamation point incentives command in chat to do so.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that Kiwami is such a wonderful runner when it comes to Mighty Gunvolt Burst and just about any other game she does, and I'm very much looking forward to racing her when it's time for Mighty number 9. But yeah, no, thank you very much. And yeah, gotta meet those incentives. But for now, we are going through some of those enemy gauntlets. You saw Elise go through a few of those earlier, and yeah, enemy gauntlets are enemy gauntlets. Try to beat them as fast as you can. Other than that, there's this little slow conveyor section that we are using more movement and manipulation of Rewind to get through. Nice first try right there. We got now, I should mention that there have been these story cutscenes that obviously we get to skip through. That right there, the guy we just saw for a moment, is Yuji Otori, Kohaku's own father, and at this point in the story, we are basically trying to find a solution to this entire simulation that we are in, because the whole point of the game is that we are in a simulation of COGEN City, the eponymous COGEN location, and we are currently now fighting the simulation's administrator, Akasha. So Akasha here is also in... Oh goodness, phone ringing. Sorry if you all can hear that. But Akasha is the system administrator and also the alternative mascot to Kohaku. So in a way, the two of them fighting was also sort of preordained by the short film that I mentioned this game was based off of as well. But we are trying to tell Akasha, hey, we got a solution, you just gotta believe us. But she says, no, I gotta do system reset, so let's fight. And yeah, she can seem a bit daunting at first, but as with most of the bosses here, once you get a good idea of the patterns and all that stuff, it's not all that bad. And like I said, the third hit of the combo does a lot of damage, so we want to use that as much as possible. Nicely done. But now we have one other boss within this level to take care of, and that, of course, being Yuji himself. So it's not to say that he's the bad guy, it's just that we've now come to the conclusion that in order to make our plan work, we have to undergo a second cycle. So Yuji and Kohaku are fighting because Kohaku kind of sort of needs to die, but not really, because then the game has to have you fight him. So it's a bit of a catch. It's a bit of a false lore there. But yeah, just you can see his health going down like nothing. Yeah, this is very pattern based. If what I remember you saying was right. Yeah.
First two attacks are scripted. So the first attack is scripted, I'm sorry. And during the first attack, we can just abuse the time rewind cancels to like burn it through his health. And depending on his follow-up attack, you can just instantly finish him off. Or if not, then we can't.
But yeah, otherwise, Yuji can be one of the more... I guess you could say he's almost kind of like a super boss in a way, with the way he just uses some of his moves. But then, knock on wood, he's also one of the DLC characters that you can play as if you get his pack too, and that, he's. I've seen his gameplay. He's something else. Let me just say right here now. But now we are moving on to the second cycle of the stages, and as you just saw right there, Kohaku pointed out that the energy gauge will not refill. First and foremost, Exabreaker is no longer our weapon. EB has now been changed out with Akasha, who is our weapon of this cycle of sorts. And so the Ouroboros system is no longer recharging. You might have noticed this little aura when Kohaku was standing still for long enough, and that's actually the other way to recharge energy as well. The dimensional rifts are capable of doing that much faster, and there's also these energy drops that you saw Elise get some within some of these hidden locations, these breakable walls within the first cycle, but now there are plenty more within the second to make up for the fact that you can't automatically recharge it yourself. There's also these little collectibles that you just saw her get the second of. Those are shell script memories. You have 5 per level, which the 5th one is automatically given to you for each boss fight you do. And the caveat here is you need all of them in order to unlock Stage 5 SP, which is the final level of the game. So one of the benefits of the New Game Plus category is we don't have to collect those, but because we're starting from scratch, we do. The bosses also get powered up a little bit. You'll notice this fella right here with that blue glow. Another nice little detail, too, is that they also have some alternative voice lines as well to sort of change the... show off the change in mood or the change in atmosphere, I guess you could say. But other than that, it's generally the same fight, albeit with a certain, a certain couple of changes. I think that are fleeing my memory right now, but yeah. Other than that, we still need to deflect the bombs right at him 3 times in order to open up that weak point. And then we get to lay on the hurt. So I think if we got any plugs to mention for the time being, this would actually be a great opportunity for that right now.
Yeah, I don't have any donations at the moment, but I do want to just take a quick moment to talk about charity we're supporting today, the Trevor Project, which is the world's largest suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for LGBTQ, that is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning young people. The organization works to save young lives by providing support through free and confidential suicide prevention and crisis intervention programs on platforms where young people spend their time, including a 24/7 phone line, chat, text, and soon-to-come integrations with social media platforms. They also run Trevor Space, the world's largest safe space social networking site for LGBTQ youth, and operate innovative education, research, and advocacy programs. So make sure that you're getting your donations into this very, very crucial resource that we're here supporting this weekend.
I absolutely agree. And it's just wonderful to be able to be here for Power Up with Pride. This is something I've always fancied doing. never had the chance to submit on time, quite frankly. So it not only is it nice to be one of the runners, but it's also really nice to be here in general and just help out with something so wonderful as the Trevor Project. I know it's not the first time I've supported that, but yeah, as someone who has quite a few LGBTQ friends in my life, yeah, I think what we're doing is nothing short of amazing. So thank you all for your donations, really, truly. But now we are moving on to Stage 2 SP, and like I said, as with earlier, we need to find all of the shell memories, the 4 within the level, and then the one we'll automatically get from the boss. It's here, though, that within the plot, something seems a bit strange. Kohaku essentially got started off the second cycle with not much of her memory from before, but when she got to the first shell script memory, or SSM, then she got it back. But it seems as though whenever she tries to mention EB's name, it seems to get gargled out. So, yeah, there's something weird going on here, but there's also the curiosity on just what the heck is going on with the bots going nuts and still attacking us. I should also mention, too, that if it wasn't apparent earlier, there are all sorts of new enemies placed within the SP cycles of the levels. So, yeah, that's also something to take into account for sure. You notice there are some of those laser generators on the walls and ceiling, for example. The gray ones are indestructible, but the yellow ones, which we saw a lot of within that first cycle, for sure, those are things you can destroy. So, yeah, this game, it's not just a color change, let's put it that way. But yeah, not much else to say at the moment. Well, we will have to retake into account the little gauntlet section here, though. I should also mention that enemy properties like the turret bots that are purple, their fire rate is much faster. Kohaku can deflect projectiles with her sword, but sometimes going into this for the first time can really be confusing because, again, the rate of fire being so fast, it just makes it hard to do. And I had no idea you could avoid tripping the tripwire by dodge rolling. That's interesting. Huh. Well, I guess I just learned something new here. But yeah, so yeah, nice little section skip right there, making that go smooth and nice, easy. And now we're back to the second boss fight. And so again, it's very RNG reliant. So the only thing that matters here is having a good pattern and some good execution.
That is horrible.
Ooh,
that is one of the worst things, my lord.
Yeah. Certainly looks at whenever the first thing the boss decides to do is spin like heck. But yeah, and we're now going to see the presses come into play. And because the Phase 2 section of the health bar is a lot sooner than before, it's a little inevitable that, of course, we're going to have the stage break and we're going to go into the section that Elise completely skipped within the first cycle. So, yeah. I gotta say, this game really is something, though, because it is quite honestly underrated, but I think they did a really good job. I'm not familiar with the repertoire of gem drops as a company, but for me, this is definitely what introduced me to them. And for something that adapts off of a Vocaloid side story that I guess you could say didn't necessarily have much of a full-on adaptation, this is quite neat, really. So yeah, much respect to Gem Drops, and big shout out to Unity Technologies for making this happen. And it was also very nice that Inti Creates decided to coordinate the double release with the two like they did. It's very, very generous of them. Shout out to Inti. Now, we're moving in once again to the heat bunker here. Not much else to, I guess, again, not too much to cover that changes between the two. I guess I could mention, though, that some of the bonus conversations you can access and, yeah, terminals here, they're quite different. There are also these shutter doors that you might have noticed closed automatically within the first cycle, and that some of them you can open now. So the details put into this game and how they decided to try and change things up between Cycle 1 and Cycle 2, I can definitely consider admirable. And yeah, this for 10 stages, that might seem short, but believe me, you'll probably spend quite a few hours trying to get used to this at first. But it's that sort of feeling of getting used to the game that just feels oh so worth it. You did notice that with the death right there taken from the lava, rewinding time did not relinquish the SSM piece that Elise collected, so that is a nice thing indeed. So whenever you do collect those, that's yours to keep. Of course, that is what the game does say by keeping items that you've already collected whenever it asks if you're sure you want to leave the stage or retry or whatnot. So, you know, that is a nice thing in itself, but we do want to, you know, gotta go fast, as the saying goes. Now, there will be something interesting going on with a later boss that, well, in the cutscene following the refight against this one, we would get our first introduction, our first look at, but of course skipping cutscenes is something we can do, and that's what we pretty much want to do all the time, so just take my word for it that something might be going on with Yuji, because the whole idea is that he took Exabreaker. That was the whole plan anyway. So Kohaku knew she was going to get a new sword, but then the details on what exactly they would do, she does not quite understand. So, you know, I will admit even I'm a bit behind the loop at this point, but you know, just take my word for it. So now we're back to the magma boss, and yeah, second verse pretty much same as the first, trying to just avoid the second cycle skip. And I would assume that they don't have an early point for that. That is correct?
They don't have what?
It doesn't trigger early like the last one?
No.
These two? Yeah.
It triggers as soon as he gets red health, so we just try to keep not to do too much damage, basically.
Right. I just kind of forgot whether or not the red health happens earlier, like with the second level boss, or not. So, you know, just a little brain fart on my part.
I think I missed one hit here, actually. That's not good.
We'll have to see how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, depending on where I start with my combo there, when I hit the SIM card, it's gonna change how I have to adapt with my combo, or else it might not be enough damage.
It is worth mentioning that there are no power-ups whatsoever throughout this game, so anytime that you do play through this game, your stats and your just how much damage you deal and anything like that will always remain consistent. So at least you can go into the game knowing that much. Otherwise, yeah, you can also make things feel a bit slower than they have to. But hey, speedrun discoveries have it ordained where we can definitely do things as long as we will it. But yeah, we'll be moving out of stage 3 in just a bit. Oh, that was a little unfortunate right there.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, because we did not defeat the boss by the time he got to red health, we will have to go through that auto-scroller section. So the idea on that is he gains a few more attacks this way, and again, we have to wait for the magma to rise in order to sort of get the weak point exposed once again. And also from this point on, we can no longer use dimensional rifts. That was only really present within the first phase battlefield, so now at this rate, whatever damage or whatever rewinding Kohaku has to do will remain that way. Admittedly, it is nice that they did throw one in, especially when keeping those little time platforms in mind, but yeah, otherwise yeah, this is really slow for sure. A little unfortunate, but hey, nothing to it. We should be able to just junk the thing within at least a couple more hits, and then that'll be that. I do want to give a shout out though to the voice cast, because if there's one thing I definitely enjoy hearing from this game, it is the voices. Kohaku's own voice has been with the character ever since day one of her Vocaloid career. In fact, she is the one that I do believe was like used as the sampler for all the Vocaloid vocals per se, and also that of Akasha as well. So it's pretty nice to see that, because I do remember reading up that with Kohaku, she actually, it sort of had her want to sort of up her experience in voice acting so that she could get better and better with the character. And I can definitely say that her performance is easily what characterizes Kohaku totally. And I just love this character so much, for sure. But yeah, that was very close right there, because again, disappearing blocks, those will change their visibility and interactability for every rewind that happens. And that includes any time that Kohaku does die. So yeah, something to be very careful about. Oh my god, I didn't notice that the enemies could still be active though until the cutscene ends. That's something. Like just the fact that they explode when you skip it. It is also worth mentioning though, that little shortcut right there. The game has a little in-game in-file achievement system that, at least for the Switch version anyway, I know that for sure. But yeah, the first time you go into that shortcut does actually give you an achievement, so the fact that it's also generally faster is pretty nice. I mean, there is still the gauntlet room to contend with, but yeah, it's very interesting. There's also this thing called a challenge tree, though, and those are done in accordance with bonuses. The game will give you bonus points to your score at the end of each level if you do like certain things, such as beating 3 enemies with 1 explosive, or I kid you not, backwards evading into a boss door, and even like rewinding or recovering time for a certain amount. Oh, what happened there?
If the light is on, this part here is a real pain. You can barely get through this way, so I had to turn the light off by loading the checkpoint.
I see.
Also, it's worth mentioning, because you mentioned the challenge tree, they added actually in patch 1.3, they added the option to turn off the challenge tree. I don't know if people even noticed that when I menued in stage 1.
That's a good point right there. I actually, because I know that with your very fast menuing, it was very hard for me to notice that in the first place.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, when I first played this game, I did it completely unpatched, which you might be wondering, well, how do you do that? The answer I will not tell, but it'll be our little secret. Oh, and
let's not talk about me forgetting the thingy here.
Oh,
I forgot one of the modules.
Oh, goodness. I didn't even... That totally slipped my mind. Dang. Well, nothing to it, really. It is very nice that you can retry from checkpoints. That for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad I noticed it before I went into the next checkpoint. Else I would have had to reload the level.
Unfortunately, there's no way to jump back into a level via sections, meaning that if you have to go back through a level, you gotta do it on the whole, and that is definitely not speed-friendly whatsoever. So it's a little unfortunate there, but yeah. So we're back to the security drone, and yeah. Again, second verse, practically same as the first, you know, mostly RNG reliant. Elise says, though, you say that this is like one of the potential major run killers.
This is the worst bloody boss fight in the whole game, like, unironically. I hate him.
Here's the funny part. When I first saw gameplay of COGEN, it was with this level and with this boss. So, I don't know, just a little interesting coincidence there. But yeah, totally understandable there too. Because again, disappearing platforms, need I say more? But I think this will be a good time to get some more plugs and all that good jazz going, so I'll turn it back to our host.
Absolutely. We don't have any donations to read at the moment, but even beyond donations, we do have other ways that you can help support the Trevor Project this weekend. Power Up with Pride has partnered with the Yeti to bring you shirts based off of various runs throughout the event. These 6 awesome designs will only be around as long as the marathon is, so make sure that you pick them up now. $5 from each shirt sale does go directly to the Trevor Project. Make sure you visit theyeti.com to check them all out. They're all wonderful designs. My personal favorites are probably the 3 Waltz Moon based off of Final Fantasy IX and the Marching Colors one based off of that Muscle March run we saw earlier. But all 6 are fantastic designs, so make sure you pick those up if you're looking for a nice souvenir of the fun time we're having this weekend.
Yeah, those shirts, I saw some of them within the intermission screen. They look pretty nice. Like, big shout outs to big shout outs to the Yeti for sure. They definitely make some really neat shirts. They definitely are, yeah, just chef's kiss, moi. But yeah. Did I really just say that though? I don't usually say that. Anyhow, we are back to stage 5. We're now within stage 5 SP, and having all the modules gives us access to it in the first place, so yay, we can finish the run. But this is where things get interesting. So earlier I mentioned that there was a bit of a distinct change here, and it would seem that Yuji might have gotten taken over by Exabreaker. I'm not really sure what exactly the explanation was again off the top of my head, but in the cutscene where in the cutscene we skipped after defeating the 3rd stage boss on the 2nd cycle, it doesn't explode immediately, but rather we see the masked Yuji donning all this armor with the EB's color scheme, and it seems as though there's some shenanigans going on, put simply. So we'll definitely be fighting that, and once we get to that, did the notes though what you were telling me within the notes, does that apply to Akasha or just Yuji?
Apply what to what? I'm sorry. This is a really hard part.
Oh no, yeah, I'll let you focus on that one. I'll ask again in a bit.
I'm good now. What did you say?
The boss fight you said radically changes in this stage. Within Yuji?
Yeah, since we have Akasha, we can obviously not fight her. We are actually gonna do something special with Akasha right now, and you'll see in a moment. And Yuji, or Exabreaker, he is basically on steroids from his first fight. He has a lot more health, he has a new face, his attacks are a lot stronger, a lot faster, a lot bigger. He also has something where he tries to suck us into a black hole. There's a lot of stuff going on in that fight.
And what you're seeing right now is Kohaku's very own super form. So right there, we just went to what's now called Stage Last, but this right here is Kohaku SSM. So in essence, we now essentially have the powers of Akasha on our side, but we are also just like really going at it. Now we're into the boss fight. So time will be on the final hit, so we'll definitely want to get ready for that. Otherwise, it is possible to do a category where you are completely as Kohaku SSM, but yeah, as Elise mentioned, this boss fight is just like souped up to a major degree. Like, just looking at it right now, you can already see just how fast he was going with his little Kuenzon slash from left to right and stuff, you know. It is pretty neat, though, that we do get those homing shots from Akasha's power, so, you know, this is pretty cool, but whoa, yeah. That screen inversion right there. Of course, the Ouroboros system does still come into play within this form, so we do want to be pretty careful on that one. But otherwise, let's get ready on time.
Oh my god. That is very not good. This is the black hole. If you get sucked into that, we have to basically dodge a very annoying attack for like a really long time. So these robots trolled me really hard in this fight.
No kidding.
Okay, and time.
GG. Let's go. And with that, that's the run. So now we have literally broken Exa Breaker. But yeah, that was COGEN Sword of Rewind, and if you want to see the story for yourself, definitely consider checking out this game. I do want to mention that if you are curious about physical editions, unfortunately that is a limited run games thing, but if you are totally cool with getting the Japanese version, something that I did, that is also an option as well, because just about any of the platforms that it is available for are region free. Otherwise, there is the Steam version itself if you are totally down for the digital. And of course, I should also re-mention that there are the DLC packs, which each of the characters are their own category, so there's quite a bit of variety if you want to pick up COGEN as a speed game itself, but it's just super fun to go through, so we definitely recommend it. Other than that, Elise, thank you so much for having me on commentary. I very much appreciate it.
I appreciate it a lot more. You could really carry the run. Because I have honestly not slept, so I was really tired and my gameplay and commentary suffered because of it. But yeah, thank you a lot. And thanks for having me on here.
My pleasure, yeah.
All right, then. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much for both of you on a very, very entertaining run. Very impressive game to watch live, actually. We do not have any donations to read at the moment. So I just want to take a moment to remind you real quick that this is Power Up with Pride 2022, running from all this weekend. And again, if you have missed any runs in this marathon so far, after the marathon, you can find them uploaded to our YouTube channel. You can also stay up to date on this event and any of our future events by following us on Twitter or joining our Discord. Links to all of these can be found in the panels beneath the stream, as well as by using the !social command in chat. Stay tuned for Mighty Gunvolt Burst coming up by Kiwami here very shortly on Power Up with Pride.